Hello there, Seraph17 once again. This is my Dead Space 2. Zealot difficulty, no upgrades, no damage, no items, and no shop. This is chapter 12, and this is one of the most feared chapters in the game for a lot of casual runs. I didn't realise just how many people see this section as a pillar of difficulty, and I always knew that, you know, the drill section was a tough section and that a lot of people had trouble with it because I had trouble with it when I first did it. It was a tough section. But coming back to it, checking forums and GameFAQs boards and things and all hosts of different threads, I had no idea the legacy that this section went on to have. And it's kind of interesting to me because in the context of this no damage run, aside from a weird spawn that I got at the beginning that meant that I think 2 slashers and a puker just refused to spawn for some reason, and I couldn't recreate when they did, because even restarting the level it didn't happen for some reason. Aside from that, there was no real issue in this whole level. And it stemmed from the fact that I knew that the lurkers are just kind of random garbage. If you can stay on top of them and get lucky, they will not hit you. If they want to hit you, they'll hit you. And you don't really have too much say in it, and it becomes more of a point of playing the section repeatedly until you get the run where they don't hit you. And it's not really up to you, it's not really up to skill. There's a certain measure of skill at shooting them that can stop them from firing and things of that nature, but fundamentally, it's up to them, in my opinion. I love the idea of a person taking agency over a projectile, but from my experience with this sequence of restarting it a dozen times, I don't really think I have much to say in the scenario other than getting rid of enemies and hoping it misses. And that's pretty much going to be the mantra of this video. There are 2 fights at the beginning, there's the drill section, and then that's the end of the level. It's only a 10-minute mission, this one, it's quite swift. But it feels a lot more intimidating than it is, because when you're on the drill platform, all of the drill bits kill you if you touch them by accident. That includes moving Isaac's body around with something in your hand with kinesis. It extends his hitbox and you can end up getting just jibbed for good reasons. I guess it is a big drill. And then it's just a bunch of dudes jump up on the platform while lurkers shoot at you. And the lurkers, if you stand still, sometimes miss you, sometimes hit you. And if you commit to standing still, it takes away the need to move and the strategy in movement, and it becomes all about your aim, and then it's just a case of isolating and eradicating threats. If you can do that and you don't get hit, you've done the section. If you get hit, you restart until you don't. And that's pretty much it, guys. I'd love to tell you that I came up with a really good strategy of not getting hit, and I did try. I held bodies in front of the shots to see if that would block them. I messed around with the stasis, but I came to the understanding that none of it really had the effect that I wanted. So instead I just kind of embraced the chaos of the moment. And something that would be really sweet, but I just don't think it works, would be if you could catch their projectile. So you could catch the middle projectile when they fire the 3 ones, and you never get hit by the lurkers. But I've not been able to do it, and until I research and find otherwise, I just don't think you can. And it's one of those designs that I'm hoping I'm wrong, and I've never done it right, I've never learned how to do it. But of all the enemies in this game, there are very few that you cannot exploit in some way. If you think about it. Like, the majority of the enemies in this game that throw things at you, you can catch and throw back. So if you can't do it, it's a very conscious decision to give them an uninterruptible projectile. And it always leads me into thinking, what can you do to them then? Because when it comes to lurkers, I don't really know an easy quick kill for that enemy other than freezing it and stamping on it. That's like the best way of dealing with them when they're not on the ceiling. And then for everything else, I try and throw something at them that kills them very quickly because they're quite weak to being impaled. But other than that, you shoot the tentacles and they die, right? It's standard Dead Space. There doesn't seem to be, this is the go-to strategy, this is the cheesy thing. And if that does exist, I would love to know what it is, but it seems like they don't have that inherent weakness that a lot of the enemies do. Like, I just don't really understand the design of them personally. I feel like they seem like an enemy who was designed to just be a threat at a distance, and that was it. They were always intended to be this threat that you couldn't just get around with kinesis. Because let's face it, your modules in this game are so strong that almost every enemy is affected in some way. And speaking of an enemy that's affected in some way, we're now going to be taking on the pack. And this body here of the black puker is all you need to kill this entire pack. I'm going to get into a situation where I'm not funneling them correctly and it doesn't quite work as intended, and I'm also going to start picking up the wrong things. And once you start picking up the wrong things, this can go a little bit pear-shaped. But fundamentally, this is all you need to do. These enemies will fall apart if you throw bodies at them. It is a one-hit kill for some reason. It's vintage Bioshock with telekinesis. But if you pick up the wrong thing, or if you pick up the money or the ammunition, it doesn't work. And it can lead to moments of accidentally having to shoot. So in an ideal world, I would have restarted this until I got the run where I didn't fire a single round. But not only did I have quite a large gap between the spawns because of him getting stuck, but I was picking up the wrong things, and it wasn't the cleanest of packed engagements. And it's the first one, outside of that big gauntlet, where I haven't shot them. And you know why, it's because I've got like 18 rounds, and every part of my body wanted to just, you know, Harry Callahan every one of these bitches, and feel awesome doing it, because it's really fun. But alas, sometimes you've got to take away the stuff you enjoy to get through the stuff that's not as good. And there's a lot of them too. There's quite a few of these fellas. I'm thinking maybe it's a better idea to stand where I am now, with my back further against this court, just up there, and then chuck stuff at them then. But I never know where the enemies can climb from in areas such as this, because once again, guys, this was a first attempt. And that's the curse of a first attempt sometimes. You don't fully understand everything. But definitely food for thought. I think up here is a better spot, because they can't get behind you then. But a lot of these areas have been designed in such a strategic way that they have ways to get to you, be it a vent, be it some kind of jumping or mantling spot. They have a lot of ways of being able to defy your expectations. And here are a couple of the mining slashers who are exceptionally weak on their top limbs. You can take their legs too. For some reason, when I see necromorphs with armor on their legs and like clothing on their legs, I kind of get the impression that you're not meant to shoot their feet, but you can still do it, in spite of the fact that they have some rather fetching looking boots. And he's wrecked. There's his credits. And then now this is your last opportunity, I believe, to hit the shop and then go on the drill. And I'm going to hit the shop and sell a bunch of stuff and save, and then I'm going to go on the drill, but you're probably not going to see that because it's probably just going to jump to going up the drill. As I check my inventory. There you go, 25 rounds, 17 rounds. Oh, I am going to go back. Interesting. I was wondering whether or not I'd edited it that way, and apparently I have not. But now I've got a little bit of dead time. I read a book the other day called The Reality Dysfunction, and it's probably the worst book I've ever read. And it's done wonderful things for me, and I never thought I'd ever praise a book I didn't like. And if you're wondering, it's just a ridiculously dull science fiction space opera that's the beginning of, I think, 2 other books that finished the admittedly dull, tepid and uninspiring story. And I read it more of research as exactly how not to write science fiction than anything else, and it turns out it's on a lot of lists of essential science fiction reading. And the thing that it's done, it's kind of reverse God-handed me. So when I beat my Kick Me Sign Hard run of God Hand with no cheese, it meant that when I did difficult things in video games, I had no problems, because none of them were as bad as that, because it was really difficult at the time. And this book was so bad that anything I read now feels amazing. So just through contrast of how dire that book was, anything I get my hands on now to read feels like an absolute majesty treat, and it's fantastic. And it must be said, I never thought I'd say this, but there is merit in something terrible, cleansing your palate and making you appreciate something actually good. And that good thing doesn't have to be great, but if it is, it feels nigh orgasmic. So good. But the problem with this video, guys, is at the very beginning where I went and just kind of looked around, there's meant to be a spawn of enemies there. But what happened is I killed them and I didn't like how I killed them. So I restarted. And when I restarted, the checkpoint was at the beginning of the ride, but the spawn never happened. So I'm now missing an enemy spawn at the beginning of this sequence. And I have no idea why. Really weird, really weird. So if you're wondering how come you don't have those 2 or 3 enemies at the beginning like I do, it's because for some reason they just wouldn't turn up. And I restarted the checkpoint several times, I restarted the level, and I couldn't get it to happen. It was really confusing. But this is the section that everybody was worried about. And all I'm going to do, guys, is just kind of chill out here. I'm going to just admit to getting hit. If I get hit, I get hit. If I don't, I don't. And then I'm going to take the limbs off the necromorphs that jump up, and I'm going to shoot them at the lurkers. And the only difference from this run and the 20 or so other runs where I got hit doing this exact same strategy is nothing. The only difference is that they didn't hit me. And I just don't want to tell you that this makes you unhittable, because it's not true. But for whatever reason, it's just as viable as trying to dodge. Because for some reason the lurkers have trouble when you're moving like you are. They have trouble hitting you correctly. And it's going to give you breathing room until you get hit to take them out in the ways that I'm doing right now. Trim the limb off the guy that climbs up, shoot it at the lurker, so on and so forth. Pick up the explosive barrel, shoot it at the lurkers. And that's the strategy, guys. There's no real grand tactical advantage. It's just, did you get hit? Restart. Did you not get hit? Good for you. And I don't like it. I don't like the fact that I'm at the will of something else. I like to be in control when I'm making something like this. And I would love to have found something that guaranteed. Can you imagine if you could get off the drill? That'd be cool, right? Just get off the drill and fuck them up close. Like, it'd be cool if there was some kind of rock on the roof that was spiked, that if you shot it, you could catch it with telekinesis and fire it at them. So in the downtime, when there's no necromorphs, you've always got something to attack the lurkers with, and all you do is breaking off sharp sections of the roof of the cave and shooting them. Or you could even have it so that your kinesis breaks them off, and all you're doing is throwing the ceiling's stalagmites or stalactites or whatever at the creatures, and that's it. And they never get a chance to shoot you. But instead, you just kind of stand there hoping you don't die. Thank you for watching. You take care now.